School districts are making plans following the Trump administration's order to dissolve the Department of Education.
Aaron Stuvey reports on how the changes would affect local schools and what those schools are doing to prepare.
With the Trump administration's order to dismantle the Department of Education, school districts everywhere are bracing for big changes. Governor Tim Walz spoke on the possibility of the order last Thursday at an elementary school, a possibility that is now a reality.
Have you heard them talk about what will actually mean for students? What they're saying is, and they're measuring their success by is, there's 1,300 less employees. There is no Department of Education.
Locally, Mankato area public schools report around $8.6 million of their operating funds come from federal programs, around 5.5% of their total budget. That money funds programs such as special education, Title I programs, and the National School Lunch Program, all of which are now in doubt. Leaders at the district aren't 100% sure what will happen with the federal changes, or even if they will happen at all, and say that they need to be prepared for any and all possible futures.
There's just a lot of talk that sometimes that comes out of Washington, things never happen. But what I can say is that we will be ready if or potentially when things start impacting our classrooms, we will be right there fighting for our kids, because what's happening in our classrooms really is a projection out into our community's future, and we can't be messing with that.
District leaders say that while administration is paying close attention to any upcoming changes, teachers and students are more focused on life in the classroom than the politics happening far above their heads. In Mankato, Aaron Stuvey, KEYC News Now.